Recently, one of the largest gaming archives, Vimm's Lair, received multiple copyright claims for having files of old Nintendo games on their website. Although this attack was most likely caused by trolls, it still opens up the door for a discussion about the importance of video game preservation, more specifically how the arrogance and greed of some major companies has led to and will continue to lead to the creation of lost media in gaming. Before we get started, remember to leave a like on the video and subscribe with notifications on to see when I upload next. Alright, so how exactly do we lose a game? I mean, I have one right here, and so do plenty of other people. Well, we'll discuss exactly how a game like this is at risk, but first we should talk about the games which have already been abandoned and the ones that are the most at risk. One of the largest and most recent threats to gaming history came in July of 2017 when Adobe announced that they would stop supporting Flash Player. This decision wouldn't take effect until December of 2020, but despite the time that we had to prepare, it still caused damage to many corners of the internet. Although a large majority of Flash games were preserved and either started running on HTML5 or moved to platforms like Steam, Google Play, and the App Store, there are still a few which didn't follow along, a few which I don't even know about. Many of these games which didn't follow along have been stored in archives similar to Vimm's Lair. The reason why the attacks on Vimm's Lair are so scary is because if the copyright holder of, for example, My Gym Partner's a Monkey, monkey, decides to file a copyright claim against these archives, they could effectively wipe these games from existence, and they're well within their rights to do so. Games like Cartoon Network's Titanic Kung Fu Ba Offensive, or TKO, which required connection to online servers in order to run, are also a huge part of lost Flash games. Even though the file for TKO can still be found in the deep pits of the internet, there is no way to play it. There's no option to play the game locally, and the servers you need to connect to don't exist anymore. Moving away from Flash games, the issue of server shutting down is something that many fully produced titles also suffer from. Although a lot of these games have single-player or offline modes which you can still enjoy, a select few only exist through connection to official servers. Take, for example, Batman Arkham Origins. On release, there was an online multiplayer mode for the game which existed that I really enjoyed. It was basically team deathmatch, but a third team was playing as Batman and Robin trying to take the other two sides out. It was a really cool concept for a game, but unfortunately people stopped playing it as it aged, and the PC servers were officially shut down at the start of 2021. According to a few forum posts, the PlayStation servers still exist, but people claim to be waiting upwards of an hour to connect to online services. That just includes loading into the game, by the way. That doesn't include finding a match to play. This especially sucks in this case because not only can you not play the game anymore, you also can't earn all the achievements for Batman Arkham Origins since they require you to do things in this defunct multiplayer mode. Unfortunately, in cases like this, there isn't much that anyone other than the publisher can do. The best way to prevent total loss is to not design a game that requires you to connect to a server in order to play in the first place. Maybe I'm off my rocker or weaning right now, but I feel like multiplayer games shouldn't be produced if there isn't an option to play them offline. Think of how much content will just be lost if World of Warcraft servers shut down. I know that multiplayer is a huge aspect of MMOs, but WoW is so large that it could stand alone as its own offline RPG. The only thing that we can hope is that when that time comes, Blizzard makes the correct decision. My microphone messed up. I'm in a swag Garfield t-shirt now. There are hundreds of games which have suffered the fate of their servers shutting down, but something more common is the delisting of sale and the closing of app stores. You know why these attacks on Vimm's Lair really suck? It's because Nintendo has a thing for shutting down the eShop on older consoles and then not giving you a place to buy the games that were only available through those older eShops on the Switch. Sure, deleting an app store only really gets rid of download-only titles, but if you missed your chance to play those games and you want to experience them for the first time, you're gonna be paying a pretty penny if you can even manage to find a console with the game on it. As for the games which also have physical releases, the delisting of online sale usually comes with a skyrocket in used copies. This is where you see companies like DK DK Oldies, sellers on eBay, and in some cases even local retro game stores just absolutely shaft you for wanting to play games that you might have had to get rid of because you didn't have the space to keep them. You want to know the real reason why I used an emulator for the Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask episode of Does It Hold Up? It's because the only copies that I could find locally are the Japanese versions. The same is true for Banjo-Kazooie. I actually really like this one. But that's besides the point, because I'm not going to shell out a ridiculous amount of money just to own a game twice so that I can make a video on it. At least not yet anyway. When I can justify it, maybe. But still, these two alone cost me what I think was $80 3 years ago. So, used games are expensive. Full circle moment, this game, $100 on DK Oldies. Correction, it's $100 for the disc and an additional $12 for the case and manual. If you ask me, that's highway robbery, but I'm not the authority on this, so please don't send any hate to DK Oldies just because I don't understand the business of theft. Imagine how much worse this delisting issue is for console-exclusive titles and DLC. You like that Batman Arkham Origins example from earlier? Well, Batman Arkham Asylum had PlayStation-exclusive DLC that allowed you to play as the Joker in challenge mode. As of today, there is no legitimate way to obtain this DLC on PC. It isn't for sale, and any copies that get put online of the game files get taken down by DMCA claims almost immediately. Where this particular example sort of falls apart is Rocksteady released a console-exclusive remaster of both Arkham Asylum and City in one game, which includes this Joker DLC for both Xbox One and PlayStation 4 users. This is good because even if the PlayStation 3 shop closes, the content still exists in some form. Even though this might not be the best way of showing abandoned DLC, it's a good way of showing what game companies should be doing in order to prevent it. Sony and Microsoft are starting to put their console-exclusive titles on PC a few years after releasing them, which is an amazing step in the correct direction. However, there is a certain other game company that I both love and hate, which has been incredibly stingy with their IP, and I wish that they would just stop. Obviously, companies have the right to do whatever they want with their intellectual property. That's where this gets tricky. There's a middle ground between taking away the ability to purchase a game and striking down any source that offers a solution. I don't think that we have much to worry about in the way of game companies taking away my God-given right to play Kirby Blowout Blast after shutting down the only place that I was allowed to purchase it, but these copyright claims, legitimate or not, are genuinely terrifying for the future of game preservation. The secondhand market will only continue to rise in price as games become increasingly rare to come by. Granted, right now you can find full setups for a decent price, sometimes less than a singular copy of the game you want to play. I just hate being put in the position where I have to buy a PlayStation 3 in 2024 if I want to play a game that I remember fondly. This game was available on PC through the Microsoft Store. It was delisted. Why? Even though I disagree, I understand online stores for older consoles shutting down. You want people to buy the new console, and it costs money to run the old pages. What is the reason for doing this on PC? When you look up lost games, the majority of what you'll find is unreleased projects and demos, but occasionally you'll see an obscure Cheerios game that you could only access through their website after putting in a code that you would find on the Cheerio box, and you can still play this if you find the game files online and then load it in the Unity web player. Hopefully by now you understand that this threat goes further beyond Buzz the Bee. I don't think it will happen anytime soon, but the games that you remember fondly are at risk of being lost or held up behind big price tags. Maybe a game that you grew up with, something that helped you through a hard time or created some of your fondest memories, is already gone. For me, TKO was the game that I would play at my grandparents' house while I waited for my mom to get out of work, day in and day out. Arkham Origins Online was the first shooter that I owned because I wasn't allowed to play the other ones. Shattered Dimensions. I just remember liking it a lot. I don't know. Games deserve to be played, and the big companies behind these decisions are actively making it harder for us to do what we come to them for. If by some way anyone has a way of reaching a higher up at Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, any gaming company with a dedicated storefront, tell them to let us play our games. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this topic on the comments down below, and leave a like while you're down there if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. All that YouTuber-y stuff. This is a topic that I've been fairly passionate about ever since I found out that Shattered Dimensions was taken down from the Microsoft Store a few years ago. I just wanted to play it one day, and I couldn't. So I hope that a lot of you have been opened up to this issue that is ongoing and hopefully someday gets resolved. One last thing, and this is very important. Have a fantastic rest of your day.